Yeah, my name is David Arvizu. I'm speaking and representing a group of concerned citizens from the Highlands. We collectively call ourselves Save the Arcadia Highlands Committee, and we are in support of, we do not want to see this house at 29 East Orange Grove built. The developer asked for a number. No one gave him a number. Okay. 4,500 square feet, how does that sound? I think that's pretty reasonable. Instead of being 3 times the average size of the houses in Arcadia, just build houses that are twice the size. I'm sure that will still make you a very good profit. Can you start the presentation? I want to begin my presentation with a quick civics lesson for all those who do not know. All government employees.
Can we get the PowerPoint, please?
All government employees, are you good?
Do you want to?
No, you can advance. I'll give you the advance. All government employees are required to take ethics training. It's a 2-hour online course that covers a variety of topics. But I want to focus on the chapter regarding conflict of interest. Next slide, please. The first things that this training emphasizes is that when you are a public servant, it's not just about your own sense of personal ethics, but it's also about what the public's perception of your ethics is. Next slide. It advises to avoid actions that would cause the public to question whether your decisions are based on personal interests instead of public interests. Next slide. It emphasizes that the public servants, the city council members, must maintain a high standard of ethical conduct that promotes public confidence in their actions and that their actions are not motivated solely by their own personal interests. Next slide, please. It clearly points out that ethics is what we ought to do, just not what we have to do. And just because a course of action is legal, it does not mean it's ethical. Next slide, please. California's Political Reform Act says that when a public official has a financial interest in decision-making before him, the public official must step aside from the decision-making process. This is referred to as a conflict of interest. The law requires a public official simply to step aside from the decision-making process. Next slide, please. Ethics training also emphasizes that if you receive legal advice that permits you to participate in a decision, your analysis of yourself is not over. You are supposed to ask yourself whether your constituents would question your ability to put your personal interests aside and put the public's interests first. It clearly states that you can decide to voluntarily abstain from if you're concerned that your constituents would be reasonably question whether you should be involved in the decision-making process. Next slide, please. This is Form 700. It's a statement of economic assets for the mayor. It shows that he is the president of a real estate investment company named Golden Apple Group International that is based here in Arcadia, California. Not surprising, the mayor is a real estate broker. Advance, please. Here, ethics. Go ahead and advance, please.
Excuse me, your 3 minutes up.
Almost. It almost is.
No, I just timed it.
I'm looking at my timer here, and the.
No.
Let him go. Let him go.
Here, ethics training points out the economic interests that should be concerned to a public servant, especially business interests. Advance, please. This is Roger Chandler's Form 450, which lists campaign contributions. Notably, Arcadia Real Estate Corporation, Crimson Land Incorporated, and Sanso International, next page please, Tipping Development, Mersol, and EGL Associates. Next slide, please. There is no way that you can sit here tonight and say that you are completely unbiased. According to your ethics training, which is required by law, you should take the moral high road and remove yourself from this discussion and voting process, both tonight and in all future discussions. Next slide, or I believe that may be the end. Yeah. Remember, according to the California Political Reform Act, ethics is not about what you ethics is about what you ought to do, not about what you have to do. Do the honorable thing. Take away the cloud of doubt regarding your motivation. Just because a course of action is legal does not mean it's ethical. Thank you very much. I honorably request that the mayor and Councilman Chandler remove themselves from any further discussion regarding this project and any future projects in regard to real estate development in Arcadia.
Okay.
Beep, okay. Let's beep. Yeah. It's not doing
All
it
right.
because it's off. Yeah.
I guess my initial statement went out the window because I asked for not to clap and asked for 3 minutes. And I have to put everything under control, okay? I mean, I can see that there's a lot of emotion involved. You made an accusation on me, but I can tell you I actually had a conversation with city manager about this because ever since I become on the council, I have never done one deal in Arcadia just so that nobody will question me that. And you can check on that. But I don't want to rebuttal on this, but I want to keep the meeting in order. When you make accusations, you better find out all the facts before you come up here and just start making false accusations.
There were no false accusations made.
Excuse me. All right. I didn't talk about that. I'm talking about myself, okay? All right. The next speaker, anybody who'd like to address? Keep it to 3 minutes, please.
Let's see if we can get back on the subject.
Yeah.
Here I have the 40-minute thing that I'll try to cut back to.
Thank you.
3 minutes. But I'm the aforementioned Mike McKay at 21 East Orange Grove. We live just to the west of the proposed development. And we recommend that the development go forward and that also the variance be also granted. The proposed home is not a McMansion in any sense. That's a term that's been used a lot. On the contrary, it will blend in and add to the value of the homes in the neighborhood. Going back to the beginning of this process at the ARB meeting in November, the ARB chairman congratulated Robert Tong on, quote, designing a fine-looking house. And I agree with that. So the question is, why are we here? And it seems like the current ARB believes that anything over a certain size house is by definition incompatible. Resolution 6770, as we've discussed, has no specific maximum size limitation. It has sizes in there, but they're minimums. In the case of the Highlands, it's 1,600 square feet. So why was that left out? Well, my thinking is that it was because what's harmonious and compatible depends on a number of factors, including the location, size, the nature of the lot, the other homes in the neighborhood, and most important, the design of the home itself. I think we got a great design here. The people that are on the board of the Highland Homeowners Association and the Architectural Review are dedicated people doing a great job. But the current ARB process, I think as you can sense, this process is broken. And it's got to be fixed. The people, all the stakeholders involved, need to sit down, figure out a new way, maybe some new people, that will make this process work so that we're avoiding these constant appeals that are taking up way too much time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
My name is Tim Birch. I'm a member of the Highlands Homeowners Association. Can you go to the next slide?
Next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, can you, Councilmember Beck, ask if you can pronounce, announce your name clearly?
Tim Birch, B-U-R-C-H. I appreciate the comments of Mr. McKay. In deference to him, I won't comment on issues of personalities or styles and so forth. I want to present a little more of a historical. You don't have any information? What's lacking here, I think, is a neighborhood perspective, a context, if you will, in which to view decision-making about an individual project. I think the spirit of Resolution 6770 addresses neighborhoods and neighborhoods that have homeowners associations who take into account the larger context. Certainly there's a notification area, there's calculations that are based upon homes that are adjacent to the project, but we also have to take a step back and say, what about the neighborhood at large? Could you put up the slide, please?
There it is.
Thank you. Typical Highlands home. This is what we're talking about when you go into the Highlands Homeowners Association. If you're not looking at the slide, please do so, because that's your reference. This is what we look at as residents of the Highlands. We see a home like this, and that's representative. It doesn't mean every home needs to be like this. We're talking about what's typical, and that's a context by which projects get reviewed. Can you go to the next one, please? That typical, based upon data from the public records supplied by various realtors for the 840 or so homes in the Highlands, is a home that's approximately 2,600 square feet, the yellow line at the top, on a 15,000 square foot lot with a FAR, or a coverage, of about 18%. What we're seeing today, and what we've been seeing in almost all of the submissions for review to our Architectural Review Board, are homes that are 5,500 square feet or above. On average, they're 5,500 square feet. This project started at 6,500 and has come down to 6,200 with the proposed modifications. I would propose this isn't even reviewable. This is a different home. This is a home that should go into the locations above Foothills Middle School, where you have an estate. You have estates that are 6,000, 7,000 square feet on average, if you look at the second yellow line. No one is. That are on an average lot size of 58,000 square foot. What's happening is that when you step back and you say the 16 submissions that were reviewed that are on average 5,500 square feet, they are now at a 36% on average FAR, or home square footage to lot square footage, meaning that the average density is changing permanently. Second, that because of the pace of change, on average one submission per year through the years 2002 to 2010, we're now seeing an increase of from 4 to 7 to 16. So the pace of change and the vast majority of the proposed projects are all well outside. If you look at that data, you'll see that the homes are greater than 99% or 95% of all the homes in the Highlands. So most all of the new projects are being proposed well outside what would be considered a typical home, or a modification to a typical home, or an expansion or an enlargement for modern design tastes and modern styles. These are vastly different homes. These are estates being put into non-estate areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, just for the record, the public should understand there's a TV monitor that faces the council. The council doesn't necessarily have to look up to either side of the projection screens. And it's also very difficult to see figures if you look up to either side of the projection screen. So for the record, I believe it's fair to say the council members were reacting to your suggestion that they observe what's on the screen.
We were. Okay, and next speaker.
Hi, my name is Shelley Chu. I live on 1342 Highland Oaks Drive. I think we have read enough articles about the Highlands. I have relatives and friends calling me from New York, Canada, Taiwan, and Shanghai. They ask me, what's going on in your neighborhood? Why so many people wanted to build the big mansions in the Highlands? Why they want to change the Highlands? I said, that's a good question. I don't have to repeat my comment. I think those big mansions is not compatible in the Highlands because they are 2 times or 3 times of the average homes. Now, let me talk about the harmonious. I live in the Highlands for almost 23 years. We involve all the local elections. we support all the school activities, and we strongly support our police department, fire department, and also we involve the neighborhood watching program. But I notice now, most of those big mansions, no one lives there. So if this situation keep going, eventually our neighborhood, the Highlands, will become the ghost town. I will ask every single one in this room, who likes to live in a ghost town? If the situation going this way, no one lives in those big mansions. They just buy or build the big mansions in our community. Then no one will contribute any work, any activities in our neighborhood. There are no contribution to the society. There are no dedication to our community. They don't have the heart like the rest of the residents that we have. So I think this is a big consideration that we have to think about it. So I will ask, gentlemen, please seriously thinking about our future. Please save the Highlands. Please protect the residents in the Highlands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Mary Ann Tandon. I live at 35 East Orange Grove. I'm on the east side of this property. I've spoken about this house before. I may have some redundant remarks after the other remarkable speakers that have been here. I want to say about the plan of this house that it's not a typical build plan. It just so happens, coincidentally, that my hobby is reading house plans. When I saw this house plan with these 3 bedrooms built around this inner court, I said to myself, is this the kind of home that Arcadia is going to build now? Generally, when you build a home, you build a nice home with your bedrooms facing out on the beautiful views or your beautiful yard. This is divergent. And that is what I would like to say about this plan, as well as the fact that it's covering so much of the space in the lot. This is also something to consider. Think about your typical California lifestyle. It's outside. You have gardens, you have fruit trees, you have things to do outside. You want to live outside. This house is built without that in mind. It's like the people who are the residents are going to live an interior life. There's very little outside for them to enjoy or do. That's what bothers me, in addition to the way the bedrooms are aligned. It bothers me. But I just also want to emphasize what the prior speaker has just said. What is going on in the trend in Highland Oaks? As we go on through the years, are we just going to have a lot of these 6,000, 7,000 square mansions unoccupied? Is it going to be a patchwork of the old traditional residents like me of 35 years, and then a lot of empty houses? And where are the people who are going to participate with our local businesses? Are people going to go down to Ralph's and shop? Are they going to have dogs and go down to the vet? Are they going to buy flowers at Le Bouquet flower shop? Are they going to Fresh and Easy? Are they going to go into the tea shops? Our mini malls have gotten really pathetic up there. I mean, there's not enough business up there for them. This disturbs me. This is the trend. We are getting these houses which aren't being designed for typical families. It's an affluent neighborhood. I wasn't exactly affluent when I moved there 35 years ago, but I have to admit that now I am, through the appreciation of the house and through the accumulation of my life savings. But who is going to be able to afford these $4 million, $5 million, $6 million homes? I mean, who has that affluent kind of salary to be able to buy those places? And if the money for these is coming from overseas, what if the party just decides to abandon it? What then? These are many of my concerns. Many of my concerns. I just have a temporary forum to voice them. There's a lot of money in play, a lot of power, a lot of politics. And this was my one chance to voice these fears and concerns. One last thing. My husband and I are both here. We heard Mersal say they came to our door. We have no recollection of that.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you.
My name is Jean Tsunishima, and I live on Elevado. I moved into the Highland Oaks neighborhood in 1992. We had looked at many homes in a year-long search for the perfect neighborhood for our children. One of the reasons I chose Highland Oaks was because of the uniqueness of the neighborhood. The homes were mainly one-story ranch style. It was so much different than what I saw in South Arcadia, where there were huge houses being built. I did not want to buy into a neighborhood where there was a possible threat of 2 huge mansions being built between my one-story home. I didn't realize until 6 months ago that what was going on in the Highland Oaks until I saw a home on the corner of Oakwood and Sierra Madre being raised. I was appalled to see how huge the house was that was being built. It's mainly house and very little yard. I started driving around my neighborhood and was saddened to see houses being built that were oversized for our neighborhood and how the architectural styles were so very different than our ranch community. And this is when I decided to get involved. So I have gone door to door on my street to collect signatures from those against the building of oversized houses. The majority of the neighbors I spoke to on Elevado were against the construction of these houses. But it's not just me and my neighbors who notice the impact of these structures. I also have many friends that have come to visit, and one of their first questions to me is, what is going on in your neighborhood? There are mansions being built which look very out of place. Your neighborhood was one of the few left in Arcadia where homes look compatible, not like South Arcadia. When my family moved into Highland Oaks, there was a sense of community. Many families had children who played outside together. Families and neighbors became close, good friends who watched out for one another. We still have that sense of community, but if these oversized homes continue to be built, families will not be able to afford to buy there. I mentioned the home on Oakwood and Sierra Madre. I never saw a for sale sign go up, but it looks like it was sold. I see window treatments up. However, I know there is no one living there. For weeks after completion, I continue to see the trash cans open and thrown across the lawn, except for today, because the gardeners mowed the lawn and set it out. But I know that after trash pickup tomorrow, it'll just be sitting there for, weeks, days, and weeks. I realize that there are codes to follow and there are many other issues, but there also has to be something in place to protect current homeowners. These new houses are very large, and when they are oversized 2 stories, the 1-story homes lose their privacy. Both Monrovia and Sierra Madre have put moratoriums against building larger homes. We need to follow suit until there are more concrete codes in place that everyone will be happy with. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you all support the integrity of Highland Oaks and put a stop to these oversized, non-harmonious houses being built.
Thank you. No clapping, please.
Good evening. My name is John Fick. I'm a resident of the Highland Oaks. I've been there since 1977. My comments are going to take a little different tact. I want to talk mainly about respect and deference. The HOA and the ARB operate under the authority and of the rules, regulations of the City Council. We all know that. It's my position that if the HOA and the ARB, acting under that authority, act reasonably in good faith in the best interest of the homeowners association and their decisions are not arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable, that there should be some respect given to that decision or deference to the action that they took. Unfortunately, when we went to the Planning Commission decided, with the advice of the city attorney, that these were hearings de novo. Hearings de novo mean, literally, that you disregard anything that went on before. So there is absolutely no respect and no deference given to what the ARB did in their decision-making process. That is wrong. That is just plainly wrong. The city attorney tried to equate these hearings with the public hearing, saying that de novo and public hearing are equivalent. I don't believe that's true. You can give deference and you can give some respect to the decision of the ARB and still have a public hearing. But I don't think that the Planning Commission should be deciding de novo. They should be deciding based on how the ARB operated and how it made its decision. And in these cases tonight, those decisions were fairly, reasonably made, well articulated. And that's where I think the Planning Commission and this City Council should focus their attention. They should focus back on the decision that was made by the ARB. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Good evening, Council. My name is John Uniacke, and I'm the chair of the Highlands ARB. I'm assuming you have read my declaration and have read the ARB findings on 29 East Orange Grove. I want to talk a little bit about the Arcadia General Plan. I've been reading it recently, and one of the things that I've had a problem with since I have been part of this ARB has been size. There's been a lot of discussion about it. And I found something in here that was very interesting, and that was the land use policy map. It's a map inside here that has the map of the city of Arcadia, and it is broken down with different colors. Those colors represent land use and land density. The different colors for commercial, for government, for institutional, and for residential. The orange colors usually mean represent multi-unit properties. Yellows are typically single-family properties. And in the case of the Highlands, it has a very light yellow color, and it's designated very low-density residential. And it's defined as having a maximum of 4 dwelling units per acre and 6 to 12 people per acre living on an acre. Just to remind you, an acre is 43,544 square feet. And if you divide a typical Highlands lot, and I'm going to, for example, use 12,000 square feet, you end up with between 3 or 4 lots per acre. And that density, that unit density, fits exactly within the general plan. A typical house in the Highlands has 3 bedrooms. And the general has 3 bedrooms, so 3 people live in there. And so if we multiply the 3 times, say 4 lots per acre, we end up with 12 persons per acre. Again, fits the general plan. The new houses, and I'm running out of time, the new houses have a bedroom suite plus 4 other bedrooms and are typically designed for 6 people. That, if we multiply by the number of units per acre, because that hasn't changed, the lot sizes haven't changed, we end up between 18 and 24 people per acre. Now, this exceeds the next density designation, low density residential, and approaches the population density of medium density residential. The Highlands' unique character can be measured by this density. Its very low density residential designation is unique in the general plan. The ARB recognizes this designation and has denied this project based on incompatible mass and scale, a direct result of excessive bedrooms and excessive population. I urge the council to uphold the ARB findings and follow the very low-density residential designation spelled out in the Arcadia General Plan. To approve this project would be rejection of this document. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else like to address the council? Okay, April, you want a 2 minutes rebuttal?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I just wanted to reiterate that we didn't meet with Mersal outside of the hearing that we had for 29 East Orange Grove. Typically, plans go through 2 to 3 iterations when they're submitted. Typically, I will meet with the developer or the designer, and we discuss what we think will work with our group. We submit the plans, and our group determines whether or not, the normal procedure of a public hearing. At the public hearings, we don't sit there and make conditions and recommendations because we feel that it's our policy that we need to see the drawings before we start approving plans. And we've made that a clear policy of our Architectural Review Board that if we are coming up with recommendations, we're not going to approve them on the fly at the hearing, that we will meet with you, discuss with you, and set up a time to look at the new drawings that you've come up with based on our recommendations. And maybe Mersal didn't understand that that's the way that we do our process. We find that it's very effective. Like I said, I've been working with a lot of developers and designers since we've reconstituted our Architecture Review Board. It's been very effective. It helps us get through the hearings much quicker and easier because we have that time where we go through and look at the plans and make those changes and corrections. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 times before we set it for hearing. So maybe he just doesn't understand that the public hearing wasn't it, that we expected him to come back and meet with us and see what we could do to make the plans work. So just wanted to reiterate, we didn't meet with him, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. All right, okay. Anyone want to make?
Mr. Mayor, are we going to do this separately?
Yeah.
I'll move to close this public hearing.
Yes.
And I'd like to address.
Well, let's move the closed public hearing first.
Move to close public hearing.
Okay. Do we need roll call, please?
You don't need to.
You don't need it? Okay. See no objection, the public hearing is closed.
Yeah,
Mr. McCallum?
Go ahead.
You want to
I'll rescind my motion temporarily.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, do I understand that I'm limited to 3 minutes?
Yes.
I'm sorry, my presentation is going to be a bit irregular because I thought I had 5 minutes.
Well, maybe you pick
bear with me.
maybe you can pick the, points.
My name is Bruce McCallum. I've lived in the Highlands for over 42 years. I'm here to speak in favor of the Planning Commission's decision and to discuss the grossly improper actions of the Homeowners Association and its ARB. The association does not represent me, nor does it represent any of my friends who live in the Highlands.
Can you speak to the mic a little bit? I think it's...
I'm sorry, sure, thank you. Most of the 850 property owners in the Highlands have no idea what's going on with the ARB and that their property values are being eroded by the actions of a very few people. I sent you the results of a study I did with home values in the Highlands in the year 2014. The results, just briefly here, the results for these homes in the Highlands was an almost 12% decrease in property values. I asked myself, is this part of the general trend of the area? And the answer is absolutely not. I checked with Zillow, and it shows that for the zip code 91006, zip code in total, property values have increased almost 10%. The LA Times represented it about a month ago at an increase of 9.6. So the values in the Highlands have had a net loss of about 20% since the present ARB has been in control. And 20% is not pocket change to most of us. One of the important functions of the City Council is to protect property values, yet a small group of people who have taken over our ARB, using the authority delegated to them by the City Council, is significantly eroding our property values. I and many property owners are turning to you for protection. I respectfully request that the City Council immediately retract the authority previously granted the association and its ARB. For the Council to do this, I am of the opinion our home values will immediately increase and reflect the true value of the home. You may be hesitant to do this, feeling we residents should solve our own problems, and normally I would agree. But I'll tell you why that simply cannot be done. You recall how we've heard of the street hearings, especially earlier last year. They're just completely out of control. In one I was at, one member resigned on the spot saying, I can't take this stuff anymore. The second one resigned the following day, and the chairman resigned within a week later. Now, unbelievably, the board of directors of the association subsequently appointed several of these outspoken people to the ARB. Now, I just find that inconceivable, but it's true. During an annual meeting of the association last month, each person up for election to this year's board was asked to talk about their qualifications and thoughts about developments in the Highlands. When the chair of the ARB had the floor, John Murphy, whom most all of us know, John Murphy asked if he could ask a few questions. The candidate said yes. But when John began to ask questions, he was cut short when the ARB chair said, quote, "We don't need a heckler." Now, gentlemen, John Murphy is not a heckler, as you know. That comment effectively ceased all discussion during that meeting. With this control and attitude...
Can you, Bruce, can you wrap it up?
30 seconds, thank you. With this control and attitude on the part of a few people, I again respectfully suggest this council immediately retract the authority it previously granted this association and its ARB. It is proven that we citizens cannot correct the situation. This council is our last hope for relief. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay. No clapping, please.
Yes, if there's nobody else that's going to participate, I would move to close the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second?
I assume no one else wants to speak. We are about to close the public hearing. Okay, second.
Okay.
Okay.
We have something. It's like an auction. You wait to the very end.
The best for the last, right?
My name is Roger Nemrava. I live at 1648 Highland Oaks. My wife and I moved there 31 years ago. We originally lived in Sierra Madre, and after 3 years we decided to move. We didn't like the way the city was zoned, with a condo next to a house, next to a garage mechanic, next to a store, next to a KFC, and we didn't care for the street parking. So we moved, overnight street parking. So we moved to Arcadia. We found this jewel called the Highlands, and beautiful one-story ranches, which is what we bought. So we decided to move in there. And all I wanted to say is that these large homes, we're seeing 6, 8, 10 people. They can't even find a place in their garage to park. And the city allows them to park on the street for some ridiculous permit fee, annual fee. I think it's $50 or something like that. And so on the street now, we'll have 10, 12 cars parked there all day long, and in the evenings even more. So the whole neighborhood has changed, and I totally disagree with Mr. McCallum. I personally have canvassed the area with petitions, and I think 99% of the people I've met with are against this kind of development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're gonna do it again.
Yeah, well,
Close the public hearing?
well, Gary solicits help there, so I'll move to close the public hearing.
Going once, going twice, I second Mr. Chandler's motion.
Okay. All right, seeing that.
I'd like to,
Okay.
I would like to address the city attorney. Obviously, we've received a whole bunch of new stuff on a short notice. Can your firm diagnose this, make a recommendation within the next 2 weeks before the next council meeting?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. Would you recommend that we continue these public hearings, this public hearing, and we have another one, or close it? In other words, I think that we need to direct you, I think the council needs to direct you to come back to us with a report on this new material that's been given us and some recommendations. Go ahead.
That would be appropriate, and I'd recommend that you reopen the public hearing and continue it when you're done with whatever discussions you wish to undertake tonight, if any.
Okay, well, my motion would be that we continue our decision and our discussion about this until we get a factual report from you.
I recommend you go beyond that and continue the public hearing after you reopen it now. In other words, reopen it and continue it to the meeting on February 3rd.
Okay, all right. All right, then I'll make a motion to continue this public hearing, reopen it, but continue it to the next council meeting, which is 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February the 3rd, 2015, at these very same council chambers. And the council will direct this, this is a motion that the council direct the city attorney to prepare a council, or considerations of the documents and address the issues that are raised by the appellant and the appellant's attorney, and which obviously was submitted to us on January 14th, and to limit the public comment in the future to matters that address your document, as opposed to just opening up to everything we've heard. Does that make sense?
That can be done. And by the way, the letter was dated January 14 from the legal counsel representing the appellant. I'm not sure when the city received it, but I believe it was either the 5th, I think it was the 15th.
Okay. Well, that's my motion, gentlemen, and...
I second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, and discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Chandler?
Yes.
Councilmember Tay?
Yes.
Councilmember Beck?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kovaceck? Mayor Wu?
Yes. All right, let's move to the next one, 1C.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is an appeal of the Planning Commission decision to overturn the Highlands Homeowners Association's Architectural Review Board's denial and approval of the design plans and an oak tree encroachment permit for a new two-story residence at 1600 Highland Oaks Drive. Much like the last one, we will go to Jim Kasama and his staff for a staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lazaretto. Honorable Mayor and council members. The subject design review is for a new two-story, 6,149 square foot residence at 1600 Highland Oaks Drive.
Excuse me, please, if you want to discuss the matter, please go outside the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. This design review was initially submitted to the city on January 21st, 2014, during the time when the Highlands Architectural Review Board did not have a chairperson to process the applications. The applicant went through 2 reviews with the city staff and made revisions in response to those reviews based on staff's comments and public input. However, before completing this design review, the Highlands appointed a chairman and resumed the processing of cases, and this proposal was given to the Architectural Review Board in June. The Architectural Review Board held a design review hearing on September 24th, and there were comments both in favor and against the proposal. As a result, the applicant and the developer agreed with the Architectural Review Board to make revisions to the design, and the board continued its hearing on this design review. Several changes were made to the design, and the continued hearing was held on November 19th, at which the proposal was denied on a 3-0 vote, with 1 board member absent and 1 board member having abstained. The Architectural Review Board found that the design is not consistent with the established guidelines in the categories of site planning, massing, roof and facade design, streetscape, and its effects on adjacent properties and the neighborhood. The board's findings and action report is attached to the staff report. The Architectural Review Board's decision was appealed to the Planning Commission on November 20th. In the appeal, the applicant states that the proposed design meets all applicable standards, that it exhibits a cohesive architectural style, and is compatible and harmonious with the neighboring houses. The proposed design complies with the city's zoning regulations. The Planning Commission conditionally approved the proposed project. That Planning Commission decision has been appealed to the City Council by the Highlands Homeowners Association. In addition to the design review, the proposed project also includes a request for an oak tree encroachment permit. Associate Planner Tom Lee will go over the specifics of the proposal and the appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Kasama. Honorable Mayor and council members, this proposal is to demolish an existing residence and build a new 6,149 square foot two-story single-family residence with an attached two-car garage at the subject property. The proposed floor plan includes 4 bedrooms and 4.5 baths. If I could have the overhead projector, please. As was mentioned, this design review was initially submitted to the city as a two-story French country-style residence, as you can see on the screen. After revision, the proposed architectural style is now craftsman, with appropriate architectural features that include shingle-style siding and a natural river rock base. The overall building height is 25'7" as measured from the average existing grade, and an overall lot coverage of 28%. The proposed top plate heights are 9'6" on the first floor and 8'6" on the second floor. The slope of the roof will be 4 to 12. Staff finds the proposed design to be of high aesthetic value and that it is consistent with the city's single-family residential design guidelines and resolution number 6770. The proposal has strong horizontal features, a second floor that is deeply recessed from the street, and mature landscaping to maintain the character of the site and the compatibility with the neighborhood. Also, there are no side-facing windows on the second floor, which helps to protect the privacy of the adjoining neighbors. With regard to the oak tree encroachment permit, the proposed development will encroach into the protected areas of 2 oak trees, which are located in the front yard area of the subject property. A certified arborist reviewed the subject proposal and recommended protective measures for the health of these oak trees, and these measures are included as a condition of approval. On December 9th, 2014, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to overturn the ARB denial and conditionally approved the design concept plans and oak tree encroachments based on the finding that the proposal is consistent with the city's design guidelines and resolution number 6770. The Highlands Homeowners Association, filed an appeal to the Planning Commission's decision on December 17th, 2014, citing that the proposed plans are not compatible and harmonious based on the ARB findings.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. In summary, the proposal has 2 elements, the architectural design review and an oak tree encroachment permit. It is recommended that the City Council deny the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission decision to conditionally approve the proposed design and the oak tree encroachment permit. This concludes our report. Are there any questions?
Okay, any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 questions. This case, as evidenced by the staff report, has a long history, but there's no indication that any statutory time limits were violated. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. There is mention that this house may have historical significance. Was that considered at all by staff?
It is considered separately. We have a certificate of demolition process that reviews homes in excess of 50 years in age to see if they are historically significant. That review was done and it was found that there is no historical significance to this particular residence. There was an abundance of material which was presented to you regarding the architect, who is well-known in architectural circles, but it was found that this particular home was not particularly reflective of his professional work.
Okay. And we've been advised by the city attorney that this is a de novo hearing, that basically we're relying on staff to help us determine whether this house is compatible and harmonious and in proportion with the neighborhood. Can you tell me how a craftsman house, what's your thinking about how a craftsman house becomes compatible and harmonious with that neighborhood?
There are a variety of architectural styles throughout the Highlands. They typically refer to California ranch style. That is not a particular architecture style. It is more of a form of architecture. Basically low profile, generally wide and elongated, and rather shallow from front to back. The craftsman style, well, it is not that, also is typically lower in profile. The shallow second floor and typically a wider first floor. And while it may not be shallow from front to back, typically there is a visage from the front of the house through the rear. That, of course, would not be evident in simply looking at the elevations. One would have to kind of experience that aspect. It does appear that the floor plan presents that, but that is very difficult to envision. So as with those respects to the craftsman style in this case, we feel it fits into the Highlands.
Okay, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you basically saying that although there may not be other craftsman-style homes in the immediate neighborhood, craftsman in and of itself is a compatible design to ranch?
Not necessarily just craftsman style. There are other styles of architecture in the neighborhood.
This craftsman
But
style?
Yes, yes, it does.
And then finally, there's an interesting house across the street, and maybe somebody can enlighten us during the public hearing process, but I'm not quite sure what style it is, but it's two-story and it has two columns. What, if any, impacted this house directly across the street from the subject property play in you determining what would be compatible and harmonious with the neighborhood?
Well, that home certainly would be an example of the wide variety of styles in the immediate area. That is, looked at in determining compatibility and harmony. If there are an extremely wide-ranging number of styles in an immediate area, then one could say that almost anything would be harmonious and compatible in a particular setting. One would have to say that this particular home that you're referencing is an outlier, and we would not have taken that into serious consideration in determining harmony and compatibility. I think if another home were proposed to look like that at this location, we would not support approval of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Jim, did staff go out and look at the home that's currently there?
Yes, we did.
And would you agree with me that it's a beautiful example of mid-century modern, very well maintained?
Hard for me to say how well maintained. I didn't have access.
At least from the
interior.
outside.
Certainly from the outside, the property looks to be in very good shape.
Who hired Casey Tibbett that did the historical analysis?
She is with one of the consulting firms we have on retainer to perform these analyses.
So that wasn't something that the builder did, Bowden?
No.
That was something we did?
Well, we make the list available to the developers, and they check them and see which one they can work with, based on time and cost.
So what you're saying is we have an approved list, you gave it to Bowden, Bowden went out and got the analysis?
Yes.
And did we do anything ourselves to find out if this structure that currently there has a pedigree that we should protect?
We were given additional material after the initial review, and we forwarded that to the consultant, Ms. Tibbett, and then in discussions with her, we found that that there is no particular significance to this residence.
Well, she's saying that it doesn't appear eligible for listing on the California Register of Historic Resources, but is that, in your mind, definitive? We're not going to protect something if it's not eligible for California Register of Historic Resources?
I don't know what whether one can say it's definitive, but barring that, there is no preservation ordinance. And in most cases, an ordinance would not accept for preservation a home that does not qualify for the listing.
Well, we're working on historical preservation right now, and hopefully we'll have that soon. But do we meaning staff, do any research on John Galbraith and the other homes that are protected?
Staff did not do any research. That was left to the consultant.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah. Yes.
Jim, the previous homeowner, prior to the developer buying it, this home that was, I mean, I took a tour of the neighborhood, and this home seemed like incompatible with the ranch-style homes because it was modern. So this was sold, this house was sold to be demolished, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did anybody ever contact the previous owner?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so it was the owner's wish, obviously, to sell the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
So I don't quite understand the discussion about, I don't know what we're supposed to do, buy it as a city or step in and say, I don't get that part, but you didn't talk to the previous owner at all?
No.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions to the staff? Okay, this is a public hearing, and the earlier, for the number 1B instructions, I would like to continue with that. So with that, if the appellant would come up, and you have 5 minutes. And you do have 2 minutes rebuttal if you like at the end.
Yes, if you can reserve 2 minutes for me, I appreciate it. Thank you. Gentlemen, again, as you're aware, I'm a longtime resident of the city of Arcadia, born and raised on Highland Oaks Drive. I returned to the Highlands in 2007 with my husband and 2 kids. At that time, nothing over 5,000 square feet was being built in the Highlands. If the homes that had been built in the last 2 years had been built during those 2 years before 2007, my husband and I never would have bought in the Highlands. The Highlands to us was the anti-South Arcadia. It was the safe haven of those who wanted to enjoy living in the Highlands and have their kids go to the quality schools with a neighborhood with a sense of community. The Highlands is different than the rest of Arcadia. Namely, it has views. If we don't protect those views or do something to make some kind of reasonable attempt to protect those views, we are diminishing our property values. My property value will go down if I don't have the views. Our ARB denied plans for 1,600 Highland Oaks based on mass, scale, height, and obstruction of views. The developer appealed, and Planning Commission overturned our ARB's denial. The ARB has repeatedly asked Bowdoin to reduce the mass, scale of the project, articulate the second floor so that it doesn't obstruct views, and remove the courtyard. If you can go ahead and, sorry, Tom. Okay, yeah, map. So I have illustrated a map with all the red parcels indicating the houses that have signed the petition that we circulated, which you all have copies of, that is asking for denial of this project because it's not harmonious and compatible. So over 425 signatures, which represents approximately 377 homes signed that this home in this project, in their opinion, was not harmonious and compatible because of the mass, the scale, and because it obstructs views. Apparently, you have a survey of 125 signatures that found the house compatible and harmonious. I haven't seen the survey, so I don't know exactly what it says. I don't know if those signatures represent an individual house or several signatures from the same address, or if any of those signatures are even within the Highlands. But I do know that I had talked to some of my neighbors, and I guess people in the 1500 block of Highland Oaks signed, and the 1500 block isn't in our HOA, so they're a separate CC&R. So again, you know, if we're looking at just what our HOA majority, you're looking at maybe a third support this project, but I think you're looking at a majority of the people do not think that this house is harmonious and compatible. And actually my percentages are way off because I don't do math very well. So 125 is, I don't know what percentage. Sorry. Thanks. All the rest of the homes that we tried to survey didn't answer the door. So that's the only reason why I don't have survey results from every single house. It's, you know, we went door to door. We talked to everybody that we could. Clearly, there's people who, you know, we go both ways. There's differences of opinions. And I respect my neighbors who have a different opinion than me, and that is totally fine. But I think in the end, we go with the majority of what people want in the Highlands, or what the majority opinion feels is harmonious and compatible. We have a room full of people here tonight, and I just wanted to make sure so that not all these people have to stand up and speak in support, but just so that they can be recognized that they're here in support of the appeals. I'm going to ask that they either raise hands or raise the signs so that we know who here is in favor of saving the Highlands from what we see as mansionization. Thank you.
You don't follow instruction very well.
Yeah, I do. That's not a protest. It's a freedom of speech. Let's see. So, Councilmember Tay, you know, you've told people that your hands are tied and that you can't make any decisions to deny these plans based on size, but I think you can find that it's not just size that is wrong with this house. It's obstructing views. It's the massing of it that's not compatible with the neighboring properties. I hope you can see that what we're trying to do is not stop development in the Highlands. We're not against two-story houses. Both me and my husband have said that they can build a two-story house next door to us. It's just got to be compatible and harmonious. And one of those elements is don't obstruct views. It's supposed to be that you articulate the second floor so that views are not obstructed. And I don't see that being addressed in these plans. I hope you side with the residents who voted you into office over the developers who don't even live here. That's what we're asking for. And I hope you can deny these plans. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, I would like to ask the applicant to make a statement. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Todd Bowden, representing the owner of the project. We are in support of the City Planning Department and Planning Commission's unanimous approval of the project before you this evening. The original design review package was submitted early 2014, as Mr. Lee said, as the Highlands ARB did not have an operating board at the time. After the design review, during the design review process, the Highlands ARB became active, and after numerous delays, the project would ultimately be heard on September 24th of 2014. At the meeting, 3 board members were present, and after positive comments from the majority of the board members, Bowden Development and the designer, Mr. Tong, agreed that we could accommodate most, if not all, of the concessions and concerns of Mr. Kuo and Mr. Zimmerman. On the project before you, based on the concessions of plate height and roof pitch reductions, we were able to reduce the overall height of this home from 28 feet 6 inches on the original proposal to 25 feet 7 inches, which is 15% lower than the allowed height of 30 feet. Aside from reducing the plate heights and lowering the roof pitch, we also agreed to lower the roof over the entry, remove proposed dormers based on the board's recommendations. The full height stone on the original proposal was reduced to a wainscot height. Siding was added to accommodate the craftsman style. The windows were changed from arched to rectangular, and wood elements and mullions were added to further depict the craftsman style. Windows were eliminated on the north and south elevations of the second floor, and the originally proposed rear balcony was removed. The majority of the board at the September 24th meeting stated that they liked the design and the orientation of the second story towards the rear of the property. This has been a stipulation of this ARB all last year in an effort to keep the second story massing away from the street. As a concession and in order to accommodate the retention of 2 large mature sycamore trees that the neighbor also expressed concern about, we moved the second story forward 4 feet. A first floor porch was removed, the kitchen area was reconfigured, and the lower level was also moved towards the street in the rear. The September 24th meeting was continued so the board could see the numerous concessions on the plans. The follow-up meeting was scheduled 7 weeks later, which was past the resolution 6770 required 30 days, but I agreed to that so that we could have the same board members present at the second meeting. On November 19th, a different board was in attendance at the meeting, and a denial was issued, although the consensus was that they all liked the revised design and concessions. The concessions were overlooked and the votes were based solely on size. Bowdoin Development and Robert Tong have worked diligently, professionally, to submit an application that meets and in most cases exceeds the design guidelines, development standards, and Resolution 6770 as set forth by the City of Arcadia. We have made a concerted effort to work with the resistance of the ARB by accommodating the concerns of the September 24th meeting, which included a completely new vision and style and massing of the home. As the Planning Department and Planning Commission unanimously agreed, along with the support of 2 prior Highlands ARB chairmen, the immediate neighbors to the south, and well over 100 other owners in the Highlands via petitions and letters, we have bent over backwards and created a compatible home based on 28% lot coverage, style, scale, height, visual massing, mature tree retention, front, rear, and side yard setbacks. I appreciate your consideration of approving the project before you tonight and denying the appeal. Both the designer, Robert Tong, and I are available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time I will open the public hearing to the public. Anyone would like to address the City Council, and your time is limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm John Karunananthan. I live in the Highland Oaks. I've been living in Arcadia for 15 years, the last 5 years in the Highland Oaks. And I have come here a few times before regarding this matter because we all feel it's a very important matter. Not just the issue today in front of us is not just about the architectural style. You heard a lot of details about the styling and all that, and whether these developers can design and build beautiful homes. It's about the appropriateness of these new homes and the long-term impact to our neighborhood, the quality of life for the people who live here, who are invested in the Highlands, the city of Arcadia, the great schools, and the greater community at large. It's a responsibility of the City Council to set the direction, and that's why we are here with this appeal. And I want to remind you that you were all elected by the voters of the city and not by the developers, and I hope that you would protect the interests of the majority of the residents. Now, specifically about these houses, that's in front of us. Actually, what I'm telling you is common to this house as well as the previous house. It's about the scale and proportion to the rest of the neighborhood. When one home in a block changes scale by 2 to 3 times the size of the rest of the homes, that alone changes the character of the neighborhood. When one out-of-scale home looms over the neighbors, it deprives the neighbors of the light, air, privacy views, and the quality of the neighborhood suffers. There are a few people who have misunderstood, and they have mentioned it here, that meeting the city council, the city regulations is adequate to build a home. But we have the resolution 6770, that's an additional requirement to build in the Highlands. Meeting the citywide building code alone is not adequate. There are 2 layers of code that the developers have to meet. The residents of the Highland Oaks have elected the ARB, and I have been to the last homeowners association meeting, and I saw one city councilman there. I appreciate seeing you there. There was almost unanimous anger among the homeowners about what's going on in our highlands. Ignoring the majority of the residents' wishes and ignoring the ARB's decision by the Planning Commission, and we don't know what the decision you guys are going to make, is making a mockery of the resolution that was passed by none other than the Arcadia City Council. The ARB has given good faith effort into resolving this issue, but people need to work together to solve it, and I hope you guys don't override this. Now, there are some people who say that this resolution is vague, and they don't know what the definition of harmonious and compatibility is. So let me give you a little example, because I think I learned that when I was in elementary school. If you put a basket of 1 apple and an orange and a pear and a large pumpkin, and you show it to an elementary school kid and ask them which one is not harmonious and compatible, most kids would pick it out. But I think a lot of adults have a problem with this. The problem in front of us today is as simple as that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that a 6,000 plus square foot home among 2,000 plus square foot ranch homes is not harmonious and compatible. Okay, these mega homes are also having a real impact on our property value. I have talked to some honest realtors who told me that living immediately next door to a mega mansion reduces your market value by at least 10 to 15%. Now, you will hear some realtors who will tell the opposite, and they are the ones who smell short-term profiting at the expense of other people and at the expense of long-term property values in the Highlands. Most of the homes that are built in the last 2.5 years are for a specific market. It's a market that is buying homes for investment purposes and don't plan to live in it. It's plain obvious. If you want, I give you a ride throughout the Highlands, and I can show you, give you a tour of all the ghost homes.
Can you wrap it up? I think you you 3 minutes.
Just give me 30 seconds, okay. So most of these mega homes in the last 2 years are unoccupied, and there are many problems associated with it. Crime is one, but I won't go into that. If you allow these developments to go unabated, soon our schools will need to import kids from other cities. I volunteer at the school band, and I have a hard time finding volunteers now, and the things are getting harder and harder every year. I run the whole operation for the Arcadia Facility Bands. I can tell you from real experience.
I'm going to stop you now, please. Okay.
30 seconds more, okay.
No.
I have walked, and I want to just have one last message. I'm done.
I already gave you over the 3 minutes, okay? Let somebody else speak.
You are giving a lot of people. I know you don't like to hear what I'm telling you, but I have walked the Highlands, talking to neighbors, and and I can tell you, most of them are very upset with what is going on in our neighborhood in the last 2 years regarding the development of mega homes. Many have vented their frustrations to me. They feel we have a city council which only gives lip service about how they care about preserving the character of the neighborhood, but always votes with the developers who are just here to make a difference. I hope you will change the perception. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please, public this is a business meeting. I think we need to control the meeting. You have 3 minutes, I give you 3 minutes, they have gone over 3 minutes. I have always given them more than 3 minutes.
Peggy Allison, Allison Realtors. I'm up on Foothill Boulevard. I promise I won't be here more than 3 minutes. So I keep hearing about, values. When I got in this business back in '74, there was a house over in Eisenhower Park. We had an escrow fall through for $25,000, a little 2-bedroom, 1,000 square feet. And that, of course, house is gone today. So I want to live in a city that has progress. And if, are we supposed to do this in steps? We do, the 1,000 square feet to 2,500 and then tear that down and build another house or add on, or what are we going to do? And I have Bob Wieland here tonight talking about value. And we have his home listed up on 254 Angelo Place. Bob lost his legs in the war. And of course, he had to borrow money to live. And now we had an offer immediately. And of course, when they found out how much problem it is to work with the Architectural Review Board or the city or whatever, the builders won't touch it. They don't want anything to do with it because that's what creates short sales. There's not enough money and then the homeowner gets nothing out of it. So we've seen property values. You heard Bruce McCallum talk, and he talked about how the values in the last year are not what they were back in 2013. So it's important, that's why we have an Architectural Review Board. We have that Architectural Review Board to give us the guidelines and what's right. And, this fighting, I can remember the mall wasn't even here when we moved here in '71, and the people fighting against the mall. This fighting is crazy. There should be a meeting of the minds and something that can be worked out that what these builders are doing, we're so lucky that they have chosen our city to make it beautiful. And I think it's beautiful, and I'd much rather, I can drive up Highland Oaks and I can show you 1 or 2 properties up there that it looks like a wilderness in front of them. The people, as they get older, they don't have the money to take care of the property. And so if there's enough money when we sell it that they can move on, is much happier and healthier for the whole thing. So if you want to see progress in the Highlands, you have to save the Highlands that way and allow something that the Architectural Review Board has approved. I encourage you to approve this unit. Thank you. And this is Bob Wieland over here. He lost his legs in the war, and he served our country. And I don't know whether you want to talk or not, Bob, but anyway, thank you very much for your time.
All right, I'm going to declare recess. Evidently, this is an order that we can't control. So we're going to declare the meeting recess for a while, for a few minutes. No. But
What's a while?
in Arcadia, living in Highlands, you behave like this. 10 minutes. Okay, we will continue the public hearing. Before we continue, we start the public hearing, and our city attorney would like to address the audience.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to point out one thing. First of all, in general, the city of Arcadia has always prided itself in the way it conducts its meetings. And this is a business meeting. It's a public hearing. It's certainly not a popularity contest of any kind. I know people don't view it that way. It's really a public hearing intended to focus on a land use matter, and that's whether design review should be approved or not. So it's important to speak to that issue and to try not to, if possible, make it a personality issue with anybody in the audience, with other speakers, with people at the dais. You're entitled to, but on the other hand, the focus of a public hearing is a land use decision. That's the record that will be decided, not whether somebody spoke well or not well or anything like that. There are rules that the City Council has established as permitted by the Brown Act, and they're here in order to facilitate the completion of the public hearing. They're designed to give everybody an opportunity to speak, but of course, if people exceed the limit, then it's not fair. The reason it's not fair is it deprives others who've already spoken, who thought they had a limit, from speaking beyond what their limit was, because now others are coming forward to the microphone unfairly going beyond the rule, the limit. So it's requested that you adhere to that. And then finally, when the mayor tries to encourage you to be civil in general, that includes not applauding, because that's not the purpose of a public hearing, to hear how many people favor, how many people disfavor a proposal. Really, findings are what governs how the council reaches its decision tonight, not how many people are applauding or booing or support something or don't. It's land use findings that matter. And that's why the mayor has asked you to help the council get through the public hearing process expeditiously, but yet completely, to allow everybody to speak to everything, to have their say, to feel confident that they've done their best at the microphone and had a fair opportunity to do it, but living within the rules. And I hope this helps set the table. The Brown Act, by the way, sets forth very clearly there may be imposed reasonable time limits on speakers. We have that. 3 minutes is sufficient, 5 for the applicant and 5 for the developer. And it's even above and beyond the call for the city to grant an extra 2 minutes to the applicant, the appellant rather, and that's been done tonight. So by way of my explanation of what the council is trying to do, I hope Arcadians keep in mind the rich history of the city and the way business is conducted at the city council and the way public hearings are conducted, and that you adhere to the rules set by the mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, our city attorney. And so we will continue the public hearing. The next speaker, please come up forward.
Good evening. My name is Jasna Tomic. I live in 2225 Highland Highland Vista Drive. I have been a resident here since 2004, so just about 10 years. My home is 1,640 square feet, probably one of the smallest homes around, and it's equal to some of the garages proposed in new designs. A couple of things I wanted to bring up of what makes Highland Oaks neighborhood a really attractive neighborhood. It contains some really beautifully designed homes from the mid-century, the late 50s and early 60s, and these homes bring important value to the community and overall, I believe, to Arcadia. So the architectural value in this particular instance of the home at 1600 Highland Oaks should not be ignored or diminished. Frankly, I'm personally surprised that it is allowed to be demolished. Second, the two cases we're seeing tonight are really kind of representative of the transformation that's going on in the neighborhood overall. Continued demolition of beautiful balanced homes and replacement with houses and homes that do not fit style or design are not compatible or harmonious. So I'm not in support of this continued transformation of our neighborhood. I want to bring up 3 points specifically. I'm going to skip over my first point, which is the not compatible or harmonious, because I think others have spoken to it. However, I want to address value of properties and share community benefits. Value of properties, in my opinion, is connected to the value of the entire neighborhood and linked very strongly to shared community benefits. These include views, mature trees, greenscape, good school district, etc. A lot of things in addition, far beyond the square footage of a home. If we lose those, the views, the greenscape, and the houses take larger and larger portions of the lots, we lose very important values of this beautiful community, which inevitably will affect the home values. In addition to that, these houses are primarily our homes, not investment properties. So we need to treat them like that. Third point is the short-term interests versus long-term interests. I think we at the Highland Oaks residents and Highland Oaks Homeowners Association have really long-term interests of our neighborhood and the city as well, as I believe you, City Council of City of Arcadia, has the long-term interest in mind of Arcadia. On the contrary, or in comparison, the developers have very short-term interest in terms of buying a piece of land, building a house, and selling it for maximum value that they can, or maximum profit. This is in direct contrast to our long-term interests. Therefore, I think what Arcadia needs is to stick to responsible development, not development at any cost. Bigger is not better, not in this case. And this responsible development would include the long-term interests of Highland Oak residents and City of Arcadia. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Pam Dellin, and I am a licensed realtor. And my business runs the foothills from La Crescenta all the way out to Claremont. I've been fortunate enough to have some very fine clients and friends in Arcadia. And I'm a native Angelino, and I look around and I thought I was going to be the oldest native Angelino here, and possibly I am, because my memories of Arcadia go back to oranges and avocados and chickens. And so it's been, in entering the real estate world, it's been a wonder to see the beauty continued in this community. The love letter went on and, said a lot of things, but what I've heard tonight from all of these very concerned citizens and the energy of the builders and developers is a positive. I just have to believe that it can come together. The quality of life in America is exemplified by its neighborhoods, without question. And that brings people here. Highland Oaks and the single-family level ranch home is a true and particular lifestyle. The California ranch home is known all over the country as an easy, comfortable, and even after 60 and 70 years, a very desirable way to live. People this evening have touched on a very sensitive subject as we age and learn to move around Southern California, and that is density. We strive to keep our transportation and our roads, the main highways where it's hustle and bustle, but we want our private neighborhoods to be, I don't know what normal is anymore, but the density of surrounding communities in their private home areas, such as Glendale and areas of Pasadena, has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, and it's not in a comfortable way. So that was one thing I really wanted to go back and touch on. People need not to be disappointed. Arcadia is part of the Golden State. And I just believe that you can keep it and yet establish other Highland Oak types of neighborhoods in your square miles. One of the things I did want to give people tonight, I did run gross figures today, just very quickly on a polygon map. So it just included Highland Oaks. And to calm Mr. McCallan, I'm happy to go over this with him as well. January 1st, 2013 to December 31st, 2013, the average, there were 25 closed sales, county records, public information. The median and the average was $1,564,300. Last year, January through December 2014, 33 sales with the average price point of $1,761. So yes, the building of a outscale, inappropriate home next door does affect the value of your home. The overall appreciation for and appreciation of value for Highland Oaks is there in the public's mind, and it's a pleasure to show property in your community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, council members. My name is Chris Seymour. I live next door to the subject property at 1614 Highland Oaks. I've lived there for 8 years. In general, I just want to say it's amazing what this has done to bring out this community, for me and my wife and other folks to go door to door, talking to everyone. It's really, it's really gotten us together. And I think you guys should listen, right? This is an opportunity. You're reaching out to, at least 350 households. So you're hearing their voice, which has to be pretty amazing. So specifically, my concerns over this property are the obstruction of views. I've come to understand that there will be potentially a second floor building going up in my backyard. The privacy issues, I understand they'll minimize the windows, but still it's that sense of, there'll now be a second floor. I would ask that second floor, if it has to go in, be moved closer to the street, in line with how other second floor properties are built, and I've seen those. There's one actually more across the street than the stone mansion, or the stone castle looking one, which, yeah, I think someone else will be addressing that for. So those are my specific concerns, are the obstruction of views. I have great views of trees and the sky, and now, there's going to be a building. So my overall concerns is what this kind of size projects do to the overall community. And, you talk to people who feel alone in their anger and their disappointment with these properties, and a lot of times people felt like they couldn't do anything. This is kind of an opportunity that a lot of people are getting together, and they're all voicing their concerns together, but there's definitely been a lot of examples of where people didn't know they could do anything, or they wrote that one letter and it didn't go anywhere. But now, so, I'm disappointed with the direction things have gone, that the Planning Commission didn't uphold the ARB, but I sure hope you guys can look beyond that and not approve this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
8 seconds left.
Yeah, I know.
Good evening. I'm Karen Hansen. I live at 2109 Canyon.
near the corner of Carrollwood and Canyon Drive. And I'm here tonight. I think I'm that person that Chris just referenced that wrote the one letter, didn't know what to do with our situation, but I'm living next to a home that's being built 3 times at least bigger than mine. And I'm here today to talk about the views associated with what's going on in our area and also with this particular property specifically. So much of the beauty of the Highlands is a result of the oak trees, the wildlife, and our views. We look up and see the foothills, we look down and see San Gabriel Valley, and over into the canyons. And my house has been in our family since 1976, and I have enjoyed those views over the years. I feel like I've been deprived of that view now, because I'm now going to be living next to a home that is, the slab, if you will, is below me. I have 2 huge plate glass windows, 80 feet by 20 feet, that they used to look down into the valley. Fantastic views. We got a lot of pleasure and enjoyment in our living room as a result of those views. Now what I'm looking at are 2 bedroom windows and 2 bathroom windows within 30 feet of our living room, sitting on my couch. It's so close that I just feel like my privacy has been impacted significantly. So what do I do about it? Well, it was a couple of years ago that I spoke to this group, and I was told that we don't own the view. Well, now as I got a little bit more knowledgeable and started looking at the resolution that guides you all, I realized that views are something to be taken into consideration. And I'm very concerned about, as I look around all the neighborhood, how views are being impacted. So I'm hoping that you will keep that resolution in mind more directly when you make your decision about 1600 Highland Oaks, and take the view into consideration. It has value to the neighbors, and living next to a large house and having that be taken away is very concerning. Having lived through it, I just want to say, please consider upholding the ARB's decision on 1600 Highland Oaks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Robert Tong. My family and I live in the Highlands, and we want to say that we are in total agreement with the ARB in their decision to deny this project. When the developer bought this project, they knew the rules of the Highlands. They knew it. So how can you tear down a humble home and put in a mega mansion the size of 4 condos and not expect it to be scrutinized, and then assume it to be in harmony with the neighbors and neighborhood? Some developers just want what they want, so they can cash in on the housing bubble we're in. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against new development or even square footage. If half of this mansion were a wine cellar or a finished basement, why not? I have 2 kids, and like all parents, we have rules, like our bedtime rule. But kids are very smart. They have the greatest and most compelling excuses not to go to sleep. They haven't finished their homework, haven't brushed their teeth, and get this, they're cleaning their room. But the point is, we as parents know the consequences if the rules aren't followed. But the kids don't care. They'll say and do anything to get a free pass from mommy and daddy. Which brings us to back to this monster mansion. They knew the rules, and it would be unfair and a huge injustice to all the Highland homeowners who actually live there and have followed the rules for all these years. I don't know where all you live, but how would you feel if a developer put in a monster mansion next to you? I don't think anyone would like it, but especially in the Highlands, where we expect the ARB to help us be harmonious and compatible. My name is Robert Tong, and for the record, Robert Tong is against this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Darren Gruber. I live at 1503 Highland Oaks. I live between this project and the last one. I'm for both of them. I don't build homes, I remodel them. You asked about the previous homeowner of this house, John Love, who I knew. My kids go to school with him. I actually did quite a bit of remodel work for him, and I believe he sold this house because of the laundry list of remodel work that needed to be done to this house, as far as siding falling apart, windows coming apart. The house is not in impeccable shape. He and his wife remodeled the kitchen years back, and that was about all the money that they had to do. We put a roof on the house, and that was about it. I listened to the association or the ARB talk about 1 minute it's the house is going to be too big and it's going to be empty and we don't want empty houses. And the next minute the house is going to be too big and there's going to be 10 people living in it. There's going to be all these cars parked all over the place. It'd be nice if they'd make up their mind which direction. Is the house going to be occupied? Is it not going to be occupied? And none of these houses are being built for multi-families to live in. They're all a single family. My house is a 4-bedroom house. The house that's being built is a 4-bedroom house. The association president himself, years ago, remodeled his hardscape and has yet to even put in a driveway and continues to drive up over 2x4s. And I've asked the city, and numerous people have asked the city, and he's been cited twice, and he doesn't do it. So here's the association president not following your rules, but he's trying to implement them with all these builders. To me, it's just like a bunch of bullying going on. It's like a contest to see if we can win for them. I think it's ridiculous. I think we need to move past it. I don't see these as mega mansions. If you drive down the south end of Arcadia and you do look at these mega mansions, they sit right up on the street. They're massive. They're right from end to end. They go straight up into the sky. That's not how these houses are being built. I don't see a reason why we shouldn't incorporate some craftsmen or some Spanish homes. These are homes that were all part of California and this area itself, not just Arcadia, but Pasadena, which is, historical as far as the eye can see. Anyway, I'm for the project. To say that the majority of the residents in Highland Oaks are not for the project, they said they had 325 or 350 signatures. You have 850 homes in the area. That's not the majority. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to address council?
My name is David Arvizu, and I am a member of the Highlands Homeowners Association, ARB. We denied this project, and the reason that the project was denied, or my vote to deny this project, was because of the fact that it does not conform to Resolution 6770, specifically visual massing scale. Those are two very important factors that should not be overlooked. The developer said that visual massing, that they took that into account. Well, if you look at the drawings and you look at the two houses on either side, there is no way that you can reasonably believe that those two houses and the house that they're proposing are going to look harmonious and compatible. And that's what Resolution 6770 is about. The scale of the house is 6,100 and we'll say 50 square feet, roughly 3 times the size of the houses on either side, which are 2486 and 2075. Scale, you want to talk height, width, length, it's not compatible. 6,150 square feet with 4 bedrooms. And what else? What didn't we mention? There's definitely just not 4 bedrooms and 4.5 baths. I don't have the drawings in front of me, but I believe there's probably an additional, as we've seen with other drawings that have been presented, a home theater, a home gym. These are all questions to ask when you look at those plans. Is that what the typical house in Arcadia has? Because I don't believe that's so, and that's not compatible, and that's not harmonious. Other developers seem to be able to build homes between and around 4,500 square feet and present those plans to the ARB, which have been approved, and there are some that are pending, and they seem to be able to make a profit. So why does this developer seem to think that they can only make a profit by building houses that are over 6,000 square feet? Has something to do possibly with the amount of profit they're looking for. How much is enough? The residents on Alta Oaks once supported the construction of a house that was going to be very large in comparison to all the other houses. Some of the residents felt that it was a good idea. That house has now begun being framed up, and the residents are not happy with that. And they couldn't tell when they were looking at the papers, the drawings, but now they realize that they were wrong. We now have an opportunity to see this, and I'm asking the council members, look at these drawings. These definitely is not compatible with the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name's John Uniac. I'm the chairman of the ARB, and I am the scofflaw that was previously referred to. I have a non-conforming driveway. I have been notified by the city that I have a non-conforming driveway, and I am in process with city planning to get it corrected. I previously discussed density, population density with the new projects that are being proposed, and this house is similar in that, in regards to that. This house, I should say, typical Highlands home, in my professional opinion, probably has about 7 rooms in it. This particular house has 11. Including, as David mentioned, a theater, a gym, a library, and a study, all surrounding an internal courtyard. Now, I don't know any house that fits within the density specified within the general plan that has this kind of these kind of elements. Another concern that I really have about these rooms is this. When you look at the plan, they're all the same size as a typical bedroom. And in my mind, I look at this and go, what would keep anybody from converting any of these other uses into a bedroom? Thus, the number of people that could be living in these houses could increase even further, which even increases the population density even further. There's been a lot of discussion about all the design. I'm going to let all of that stand. You have the ARB findings, but I want to read one thing from my declaration in closing. And it's number 16, and I wrote here, neighborhoods with consistent density are desirable. Current homeowners and potential buyers want to know that the location of their investment is stable and will remain so. Change, if desired, must have direction and defined limitations. Investors and developers must know what is expected of them and what to expect from their investment location. Land use designations, design guidelines, respect for historical significance, homeowners associations, and architectural review boards are the elements that ensure stability, consistency, and expectations. All of these elements must work together and be compatible with each other to be effective for all constituents. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Keith Cato. I live at 1342 North Santa Anita Avenue. I purchased my home in 2009. My house is probably one of the smallest houses in the general vicinity, but it's at 1,900 square feet, but it does sit on over a 19,000 square foot lot. You know, I could have purchased my house in many of the cities within the San Gabriel Valley. But I decided to buy in Arcadia, one, because of the neighborhood, because of the schools, and because I really like the Highland Oaks area. I would have liked to buy a much larger house, but I did take into consideration the size of the lot that I had, and that I could in the future, if I ever decided to, add on or expand, it would allow me to do so. I've attended many of the ARB meetings. I've attended the Planning Commission meetings. I've attended the City Council meetings. And I'm concerned about new development in the area. I do think that there does need to be some limits. But what I do believe, and I think that the houses that are being proposed tonight do not necessarily meet the McMansion designation or categories. I believe that, I don't personally care for some of the houses that are being built in South Arcadia with the large columns and those things. I don't think that that fits within the Highland Oaks. And I do believe that the ARB, would help to manage that and to ensure that there is compatibility. We don't see those types of houses. There are a few, but those are ones that I think have been built in the past. I am concerned, though, about the what impact the ARB is having and the Highland Oaks Association is having on our property values and new development. I recently attended the general meeting for our homeowners association. There was a vote for all of the new directors, and it went quite quickly. One of the things I had asked, who all of these individuals were, and only upon my request then did they come up, to give me a little bit idea of, as a homeowner and as a member of the association, of who they were, what their background was. Because I think those things are very important, for all of us homeowners, to understand. It is a group that is predominantly made up of individuals that seem to be opposing, new development and are really focused on really the size. And I think what we really have to think about is not only the size, but also the lot, right? And, there are houses, I think, that the ARB has approved that are 4,500 square feet, that are on less than a 10,000 square foot lot. To me, if I were looking at that, or I would interpret that, that seems excessive to me. These other homes that are 6,000 square feet on a 18 or 19 or 20,000 square foot lot seem, reasonable, when you look at, they're not being built to the maximum, I guess. And so, that's what I really wanted to voice my opinion. I think it's important for individuals like myself as well. I don't necessarily agree with all of the things that the ARB is doing, but I do agree with some of them. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, City Council. Good evening to you. My name is John McDonnell. I have been a resident, or have been residing on the Hill since 1965. I don't know how many people could say that in here. I know Mr. Birch has been there a long time, and there's a few out there that have. And we've had a lot of changes over the years on that hill. One of the things that we talk about is we talk about the craftsman style or the ranch style house. That's probably one of the biggest things that's come up besides size, is the conformity to the hill. Okay? Well, first of all, the house we're talking about is not even close to ranch style. This is a house that looks like it should be in Palm Springs or somewhere else other than the hill. And the reason why I bring this up is because our hill is kind of like pea soup. You throw a lot of stuff into it, and a lot of things look really good. Sometimes people don't agree with everything that's in there, but it works. I have a house next door that was built, and a lot of you probably have been there because you've probably been referred to, that was built next door to mine, and it's huge. It blocked my den. I can't see out the windows anymore. But you know what? I'm not opposed to progress. I'm not opposed to progress. One of the things we talk about is wow, is that going to ruin our value of our house? Well, when I was growing up, I grew up in a house on the hill there that was 2,400 square feet. And when I bought my house on the hill there, it was about 2,300 square feet. And right now, we're just shy of 4,700 square feet. So Mr. John talks about a lot of rooms and stuff. Well, I have 16 rooms on my property, okay? And I get along great on my property. My front of my house looks just like it always did when it was originally built. But I added on to the back. But the Bowdens have come up with a really nice design here. They made a lot of concessions. They've basically followed the rules. People are saying they're not following the rules. Well, when we play a game, whether it be stickball or soccer or anything, we have a set of rules that are set so that we can go play that game. And we don't start that game until we know what the rules are. And once we start the game, if you start changing the rules, then it's not really fair. It's not a fair game. So one of the things to consider is consider everything that you see here as far as what follows the letter of the law. Have they followed the letter of the law? Did they meet or exceed their expectations of what the city expected of them? Are they building a good product? Is a bad product going away according to somebody else's testimony who's been in the house? It's dilapidated, okay? And we don't need that kind of stuff on the hill. So sometimes change is important, and we just have to kind of get over it, okay? So with that, I know it's going off, I see it. But I would just say, remember, follow the rules and make sure that you enforce the rules on them. If they've done something wrong, then they should follow the rules like everybody else did when we started the game. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to address to the council?
Hi, my name is Hector Amezquita. I work at Sanya International. This is just my own opinions of this project, not necessarily of Sanya. What we've heard today has been pretty interesting. I've seen a testimony by the HOA ARB to be a little bipolar. You could build 2 stories, but don't block my view. Don't build 2 stories, footprint's too big. I mean, what are the guidelines? They're just like he said right now, they're changing the rules. I mean, it's really not, people don't really want big houses sometimes. Some people want big houses, they want the theater. I mean, that's personal preference. That's why you buy the house. That's why you pick the house when you go there. I mean, I want a big car, you could buy a big car. I want a little car, that's fine. Same thing with the house. You want a house with more rooms, buy a house with more rooms. I mean, the HOA is pretty much saying, no, don't build that house here. We're changing the rules. But the rules per the resolution 6770 saying that we're complying. I mean, we're within the setbacks. We're under all the pretty much coverage we could do on the lot. The views that we're blocking is minimal. I mean, we've reduced that building a few times. I mean, unless we can make the 2nd story invisible, I mean, it's gonna block something. But it's not gonna block the whole mountain. You can't block a whole mountain. You can't block a whole valley with a 2-story house. I mean, it might, like he said, it might block a view of one window, but not the whole house, not all of your views. I mean, if what the HOA is seeking is stricter guidelines, like in Sierra Madre and other cities that have FARs, floor area ratios, let them propose it to the city council and, you know, maybe you guys approve that. But they can't change the rules halfway through the game and say, no, you can't build this lot or this house this big on this lot. That is technically and still a fact that they could build this house this big. And it reminds me of a quote from a senator that says, everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but not their own facts. And the fact is that this house complies with everything. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else would like to address with the council? Okay, then April, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Just a few points that I wanted to make. First of all, Mr. Bowden keeps referring that he agreed to extend the time to have the hearing. Our board could have met earlier, but Mr. Bowden wasn't available, and so we had to continue it several weeks then to get the board together. I think it was you were on vacation, so we had to go a couple weeks longer. So now we have the emails where you agreed to extend it when I said we could get together. Then somebody mentioned that our neighbor moved because the house was dilapidated. No, our neighbor had serious health concerns. In fact, had to move to Arizona, closer to family, and stop working. So I don't think that it was because it was a dilapidated house. I was in the house many, many times. It was not dilapidated. They'd redone all the bathrooms, and it was really quite nice inside. They kept up the house very well. And it was our understanding, what they told us, was that Ash Risk had told them that nobody would buy their house except a developer, and that's why they sold to a developer. So I think they were slightly misled by Ash. And what's really a heartbreak is they had the original plans to the house signed by John Galbraith. They took those with them to Arizona. They wanted to keep a memento of the house, I guess. But those plans had always been with the house as each owner went through the house. They kept the plans with the house. And it's a heartbreak that people don't understand what they have, and they could be so easily misled. I think there's a misunderstanding that the code is it. Resolution 6770 doesn't talk about setbacks, how much your setback has to be. What they talk about is harmony and compatibility, and how do you figure that out? And that's the law that has to be complied with. It's not just the codes. The codes is one level. And then there's the design review guidelines. And then there's Resolution 6770. It's another layer of what we have as the law in the Highlands. And it's something that needs to be complied with. And it's not that we are changing the rules, it's that it's on a case-by-case basis. That's how Resolution 6770 works. There is not an across-the-board arbitrary definition of what is harmony and compatibility. You go case by case, and sometimes a bigger house works on the lot, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's how the resolution works, because there were issues with views, privacy. Sometimes we don't have problems with two-story houses at all because there are no views to obstruct, and we don't have to worry about it. But sometimes there are, and then we have to make adjustments to the second-story element to try to fit it in. Oh, am I over already?
Yes.
Shoot.
Sorry. You've been over a minute. I kind of just let you go on.
Well,
but
I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes. If I might do the same thing?
You could.
Okay. I would move to continue this public hearing to the next regular council meeting at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2015, at these same council chambers, and to direct the city attorney to prepare for the council's consideration a document addressing the issues raised by the appellant's attorney in her letter dated January 14, 2015, and to limit the public comment at the continued public hearing to the matters addressed in the city attorney's document. That is a motion. We need a second.
I second the motion.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Before we take the vote, I just want to take opportunity to thank the audience. You know, after the recess, you have really obeyed by tried to abide by the rules, and he's been behaving very well, and I appreciate that. And I think it made the business meeting, went on so smoothly. And thank you for your input, and thank you for taking the time to come down to the council. And we hear your concern, and from both sides, and we have some additional work we need to do, and then we're going to come back on the next council meeting. So really, I appreciate your, the effort, and you comply with what my request. Thank you very much. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Chandler?
Yes.
Councilmember Tay?
Yes.
Councilmember Beck?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Govasek?
Yes.
Mayor Wu?
Yes. Okay. With that, let's go to public comments. Do we have anyone like to address to the council?
No, he didn't want his card.
Not on that, no, okay.
Well, you were gone, he said he didn't know.
Okay, seeing none, let's go to let's take a minute and allow them to walk out, okay?
Good night. At 10:33. I have a hard time reading that clock back there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey. Where's the police?
You might, well, Dominic will handle it, but you might ask them to take whatever conversation they have outside.
How you doing? Brings his big barrel chest down there. He's got his chest broken.
What was that all about?
One guy told her she crossed the line with her.
Oh, was that Ash that walked over?
Dash what?
Oh, I see. See, I didn't know who that was.
Oh, yeah. Well, those people apparently used that money to retire with.
Yeah, right. And then the other gal that came up and talked, her name was Pam Dillon. She was referred, we got a listing on 210 West Green in Brielle. That house is a scrape, but yet she stood there and said, she doesn't even live here. She lives in
All right, let's continue with the council meeting. Okay, report from council members. Roger, would you like to go first?
Yes, nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Beck.
I want to add some background for those of you that know that the 100-to-1 Club sold. We, as the City Council, found out that the owner wanted to sell. And the reason I'm making these comments is because I think there's plenty of people that were ecstatic that the city bought the 100-to-1, and there was plenty of people that were very upset that we bought the 100-to-1 because it was, I guess, an institution for some people. And the reason that I was for buying it was because it's such an important corner that we could control the future of. And we're doing work in the area in widening that street. And I have always been dismayed that the city allowed that Jiffy Lube to go into the intersection, a very important intersection in our city, Huntington and Santa Anita. And I didn't want something like that happening again at where the 100-to-1 is located. So I did make the motion that we should pursue possible purchase, and we effectively did that at a very fair price to both parties. And lastly, the historical artifacts from that 100 to 1, including the iconic sign, the cash register, the safe, perhaps other things, will be put in our historical museum, so they'll be preserved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Tay.
Okay, on January 12, attended the San Gabriel Valley Council of Government Board meeting with the city mayor, I'm sorry, city manager. And on January 13 to 16, I went up to Sacramento, attended the Leagues of California Cities new mayor and a new council meeting, council members academy in Sacramento. And once I attend that, I know that our city is well run. You notice that there's a lot of cities that was facing problem, and our city is not. And on this Thursday, January 22nd, Arcadia Chamber of Commerce is having their planning conference. So our city manager, Dominic, is going to give the state of city address. So if anybody want to attend that. And next Thursday, we have a very community building event. It's called Coffee with the Cops at the Westfield Shopping Mall, the Westfield Center Court. So that's the time to get to know the officers and how to keep our neighborhoods safe. And so also this is a great community building event. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kovacic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and seems so long ago, but thank you for honoring all those great members of our community at the beginning of this meeting. Foothill Unity Center, the great track stars that are blossoming at Arcadia High School. Obviously, Wally and his life-saving efforts, I think that's an important part of the life of our community. I'm glad we do it. As Mr. Tay mentioned, the 22nd, which is Thursday, this Thursday, the Chamber of Commerce is having its annual planning conference, and Dominic will be giving a State of the City address. I'm planning to attend so I can find out your vision of our city. But also, I think for the first time, they're going to have a panel of former mayors talk about life in Arcadia. So again, it's going to be this Thursday from 8 o'clock in the morning to 11:30 a.m. And I assume tickets are still available. And you can either go on the Arcadia Chamber of Commerce website or call 626-447-2159, 626-447-2159. I'm the liaison to the library's Board of Trustees, a very hardworking group, and they are conducting a survey to basically analyze how Arcadians feel about the library and what the library has to offer and can offer. And there's going to be a public community forum about the library on Saturday, January 31st at 2 o'clock p.m. at the Museum Education Center. That's the brand new building between our historical museum, the Guild Museum of Arcadia Heritage, and the Community Center. And you can also go online and fill out a survey. In fact, I filled it out while I was attending a library board meeting. It's very easy to fill out, and they want to know everybody's attitude, whether you go to the library on a daily basis or never go. They want to know how people in Arcadia feel about the library. And then, just briefly, I don't want to get into the substance of what happened tonight. I personally think that nights like this are healthy for Arcadia. I think it's good to occasionally have big issues that bring out people to discuss those issues. I thought it went well. When I think back on my long career on the City Council, I can't recall even 10 appeals of an ARB decision. So it's something that doesn't happen that often, but it's important to everybody. It's important to the whole spectrum of stakeholders in these issues. And so I'm glad we have these occasionally to bring out people. There's no way we can have a city that runs where everybody agrees.
reasonable minds can differ, and so I view tonight as a very healthy chapter in our city. That being said, I think I confused even myself when I started talking about renderings versus elevations. But it just seems to me, and maybe this is something to think about, that when we're talking about major investments in our community, that the only thing anybody has to look at are these two-dimensional drawings. And I just wonder what other cities do. And I don't know if we're talking about models, I don't know what we're talking about, but there are so many examples where a building is built and people say, geez, I didn't know it was going to look like that. I would never have voted for that, and vice versa. There are buildings that go up and people say, you know, I was against that, but once it's there, it really looks pretty good. And I just don't know how you get to that point, because obviously this whole process with architectural review, the goal is a collaborative effort between developer, homeowner, and neighbors, where you get together, you work it out, and you move on. And frankly, I think part of the problem is that there is so much uncertainty in the process that oftentimes you don't know what's being proposed or what the impact's going to be. So I'm not asking for a vote tonight. This meeting's going on too long, but I just think maybe it would be nice to know what other cities do to perhaps give their folks a better perspective of what a project's actually going to look like and the impacts that the project's actually going to have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, our city clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to cut what I had to say back a little bit in deference to the time, but I think it's important that we mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, and last Thursday, early morning networking breakfast, the Arcadia Historical Society, along with a separate presentation by the Chamber, gave the Women's Club president, Cheryl Alberg, a very nice certificate naming the Arcadia Women's Club as an Arcadia business icon. As many of us know, the Women's Club celebrated their 100th anniversary last year and is one of Arcadia's most valued and historic assets. And to expound on all of their accomplishments would take up too much time, but to name just a few, I found them interesting. They founded the first library. They helped develop our schools. They were responsible for the first traffic signal on the corner of Huntington Drive and First Avenue. And they were responsible for developing the amphitheater and the Braille Trail at Wilderness Park. And it was good seeing Floretta Lauber there, who is herself a 53-year member and 3-time Women's Club president. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that over the holidays, it was kind of busy for some of us, the Historical Society officially moved their office to the 1926 former home of Prince Eric of Denmark, behind the Arcadia Congregational Church on 2607 South Santa Anita, just north of Live Oak Boulevard. Moving is never fun, but the Society's new office in the historic old home is a perfect fit, really. The Society's first program in their new home at Prince Eric Hall will be coming up on Thursday, January 29th at 5:30. Mr. Gene Moy, who's past president of the Chinese Historical Society of Southern California, will be giving a very interesting dissertation on the history of Chinese immigrants in early Los Angeles and also the San Gabriel Valley. I understand members of the Arcadia Chinese Association will also be there, and there's going to be musical entertainment along with free refreshments and light snacks. And maybe a novelty item or two will be provided for everyone attending. It's kind of a surprise. But for further information, you can call the Society's telephone number at 446-8512. And if nobody answers, leave a message and your call will be returned. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Since this is the first meeting of the 2050, I just want to give everyone a Happy New Year. Hope 2015 will be a great year for you. And I too agree with Mayor Pro Tem Kovacic regarding tonight's meeting. And I think the first part didn't go very well. Then the people just do whatever they like. But I think after recess, I think the meeting went very smoothly. But it troubles me because every time when you have issues like this, and there's always two sides. And Highland Oak has always been a very good community. And from tonight's testimony, and I think we can see that they are kind of divided. One side can say they have more than the other side, but I think I like to see Helen Oak somehow get together and try to, work together and so that they have a, continue a good community that they can all work together. And I want to thank all the Arcadia High School band for such a great performance, winning their first, high school contest, and also the girl cross country team, and the Philip Rocha, the outstanding young cross country runners, and especially our very own officer Wally Ashby. I mean, he is just, went out of his way to do what's, to save the girl, but that's what Arcadia is all about, and we have the people like that. And thank you, Chief, for bringing it to our attention, and so that we can honor this his action, what he did, and also Foothill Unity. I mean, I usually attend that back to school date at Santa Anita racetrack. That's one of their biggest events. And they do such a good job for our community, and I'm glad that we get the opportunity to recognize their work for the last 35 years. So with that, let's go to the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be acted on by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council, staff, or the public requests that a specific item be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. A, special meeting minutes of December 9, 2014, regular meeting minutes of December 16, 2014, and special meeting minutes of January 6, 2015. Recommended action is to approve. B, resolution number 7056, authorizing submittal of the fiscal year 2014-2015 Transportation Development Act Article 4 claims form to receive capital and operating funds for Arcadia Transit. The recommended action is to adopt. C, purchase order with Haker Equipment Company for one 2015 Elgin CNG crosswind street sweeper in the amount of $315,010. Recommended action is to approve. Contract with D, contract with Advanced Industrial Service Incorporated for the Canyon and Orange Grove Reservoir roof repairs in the amount of $162,400. Recommended action is to approve, and that concludes the consent calendar for this evening.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar, item A to D.
Okay, there's a second?
Yeah. I'll second the motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Tay?
Yes.
Councilmember Chandler?
Yes.
Councilmember Beck?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kovacek?
Yes.
Mayor Wu?
Yes. Okay, tonight we are sorry to do this, but the thing we will adjourn this meeting in memory of former city traffic engineer Ed Klein, Joe Ramsey, and longtime resident Pat LaCale. So let's go ahead and start with Mayor Pro Tem. You want to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I request that tonight's meeting be adjourned in memory of Joe Ramsey. Please indulge me for a moment, because this may take a few minutes, but I'm talking about somebody who was larger than life, as you will soon find out. There are so many ways to describe Joe Ramsey: accomplished musician, music entrepreneur, successful local businessman. But only a few words really fit him best: loving husband, doting dad, caring friend, remarkable individual. Born in Los Angeles on November 1st, 1956, Joe indeed lived a remarkable life. He spent his first years in Altadena and then moved to Arcadia, where he attended Santa Anita Elementary School and Dana Junior High. It was during those early years when Joe and his young buddies first discovered their talent and passion for music, forming their own local rock bands to play their favorite songs. Even his first jobs were dedicated to music, working in the distribution warehouse servicing record stores like Licorice Pizza and The Warehouse. At Arcadia High School, where Joe graduated in 1974, he continued pursuing music passionately. Just as the heyday of the Southern California rock scene was taking shape, he played bass guitar and shared lead vocals in original bands he helped form, like Hi-Fi, Chance, Foul Play, The Item, and the Cyclones. They packed backyard parties and local clubs, developing a loyal following that extended across the San Gabriel Valley and creating a music culture that became legendary. Joe went on to Pasadena City College and in the late 70s partnered with his friends to open Marquee West, a rock and roll club in Arcadia. It was an ambitious and short-lived endeavor, but to anyone in the area who was there in their late teens or early 20s, Marquee West was an unqualified success. For Joe, though, even bigger things were on the horizon. In the early 80s, he became part of the storied LA club circuit, playing at the Roxy, the Troubadour, Club Lingerie, Madame Wong's, the Music Machine, and more. In 1983, Joe formed the Prime Movers with his Arcadia area friends. Soon, their careers were definitely on the move. Signed to Island Records, the Prime Movers' 1986 single, On the Trail, became a hit in the UK, where they toured extensively and opened for Big Country along the way. Acclaimed film director Michael Mann, a huge fan of the Prime Movers, featured their follow-up single, Strong as I Am, in his 1986 movie Manhunter, and personally financed their music video. When the Prime Movers disbanded in 1989, Joe hatched the idea for a unique group called Dread Zeppelin, which would perform Led Zeppelin songs in a reggae style. Turning to his Arcadia roots, Joe recruited more high school pals to join him. It was a daring and innovative idea that worked. Dread Zeppelin enjoyed heavy rotation on MTV, toured extensively, and sold more than 500,000 records worldwide. Band members made numerous TV appearances and even played themselves in the 1994 movie National Lampoon's Last Resort. Meanwhile, Joe's entrepreneurial spirit was still growing. He started his own independent record label in 1983, Birdcage Records, which was home to not only the Prime Movers and Dread Zeppelin, but also became a home for other famous artists. But professional achievements are only part of Joe's remarkable story. With a winning smile, quick wit, and keen insight, Joe attracted a legion of friends and followers wherever he went. Wise, warm, generous, humble, caring, and curious, Joe enjoyed something of a celebrity elder statesman status when he settled in the Arcadia area in the late 90s. Still, the best was yet to come. In 2002, Joe met San Gabriel Valley native Allison Coaster Martinez, and his life changed forever. They married in 2007, had 2 daughters, Mika, currently 6, and Kaya Joe, currently 4, and Joe's circle became complete. Still a passionate musician at heart, Allison and their girls gave him a renewed sense of purpose. Then, noting the resurgence in the popularity of vinyl records, Joe dove into the business with vigor, bringing the knowledge and expertise only a seasoned rock veteran could offer. The former Licorice Pizza and Warehouse Records kid was back and better than ever. First at Burden Records in Monrovia, then partnering with Sean Sprinkle to open Resistor Records, also in Monrovia. Popular and well-known in the Monrovia business community, Joe instantly made his mark yet again. And with the advent of social media, Joe's ever-growing circle of friends and followers expanded even more. Whether he was inducting his favorite unsung artists on his Un-Hall of Fame Facebook page, waxing poetic about the destruction of his beloved Dana Junior High School anchor monument, or debating national politics, Joe engaged and enlightened everybody with his well-informed perspectives. His online presence was such that certain friends, really total strangers he'd never met in person, still regard him as family. Remarkable, not for Joe Ramsey. That's how he lived his life. Joe passed away on December 29th at Arcadia Methodist Hospital with his wife Allison at his side. He leaves behind an amazing wife, 2 beautiful daughters, and a loving legacy as a true son of Arcadia.
All right. Okay, Roger, Councilmember Chandler has one.
Yes, I would like to close the meeting in memory of Patricia LaKelt. And Patricia was a longtime Arcadia resident, and she passed away January 8 of 2015 at Arcadia Methodist Hospital. She was 81 years old. Pat was born and raised in Pennsylvania, where she graduated from Duquesne University with a degree in nursing. She served 3 years as an officer in the United States Army, as a nurse at the hospital in Fort Benning, Georgia, where she met her husband, Lowell LaKelt. And Lowell was one of our planning commissioners. They married in 1958 and eventually moved to Arcadia. Pat worked for the Pasadena Unified School District for more than 20 years and was the director of health programs. Upon her retirement, she taught at Azusa Pacific University in the School of Nursing. She was also a well-loved professor and enjoyed working with the students. Pat had many friends from the Republican Women's Club, and other groups in the community, including former Mayor Gail Marshall, and Pat, who is on the screen, and Gail worked very hard to get built our current dog park in Arcadia. And they both had pets, and they, through their efforts, they got it done. Pat is survived by her husband, Lowell, their 3 children, Brent, Catherine, and Mary, and also 6 grandchildren and her 2 brothers. The services were held last Thursday at Holy Angels, and she will be missed, and best of luck to Lowell and the family.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Chandler. And I also have, a statement to read about tonight, that we are closing in memory of Ed Klein. And Ed Klein, former traffic engineer and longtime Arcadia resident. Ed Klein passed away on December 17, 2014. Ed and his wife Diane lived in Arcadia for 40-plus years. He was Arcadia's traffic engineer from 1996 to 2008. Ed had more than 50 years' experience in municipal traffic engineering and was licensed as both a civil engineer and a traffic engineer in the state of California. Ed is survived by his wife of 57 years, Diane, and their children, Douglas and Lori. So with that, the City Council will adjourn this meeting in memory of former city traffic engineer Ed Klein, Joe Ramsey, and longtime residents Pat LaKelt to Tuesday, February 3rd, 2015, 6 o'clock p.m. in the City Council Chamber Conference Room. Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.